welcome back or welcome for the first time. I am Jared Johnson, the Jared J, and we're going to talk a little more fantasy football today. You may have heard me say in a previous episode that 2023 was my first time doing fantasy, and I learned a lot of things. One thing I learned is you got to build the best team possible. You need to have a really deep bench because you never know when someone's going to get injured. You never know when somebody else is going to have a big season that you weren't expecting. The only way to really do that is to draft the best players you can in the second half of your draft. So in a standard point per reception league, there's typically 16 rounds. You got to be just as diligent at finding the best talent in rounds 8 through 16 as you were in rounds 1 through 7. So today I'm going to talk about 10 running backs that you might not want to overlook that you can probably get in rounds 8 through 16. The first guy I'm going to mention, and the rounds I'm saying that you can get them in is based largely on the fact that I've already drafted in more than 10 leagues, and this is what I'm seeing in terms of who's available in rounds 8 through 16. First guy on my list is Arizona Cardinals running back James Conner. Now, I have seen him drafted as early as round 6, but I've also seen him in rounds 8 and 9. So it's a little bit of a stretch because he might not still be on the board in round 8, but there's a decent chance he will. It's kind of 50-50 from what I've seen. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about him, which I do think he's worth drafting. In 2023, Conner did average 15.5 points per game. I realize that's not really your superstar league winner, but again, if you can get him around 8 or later and pair him with some running backs that you get in your first 7 rounds, that's a really good move to make because James Conner is Arizona's lead running back. He's a workhorse running back. Yes, he's 29 years old. Yes, he gets some injuries. Yes, Arizona drafted a very exciting rookie in Trey Benson. My personal thought, Trey Benson's not going to challenge James Conner for work this coming season. Unless Conner gets injured, he's the running back. He's earned it. He's proved it. Trey Benson is for the future. But for 2024, James Conner is a guy that I think you should draft if you can get him rounds 8 through 16. He did have a knee injury last year and missed 4 games. Despite that fact, he still had 1,000 yards rushing and averaged 5 yards per carry. And after coming off of injured reserve last year, he scored 20 or more fantasy points in 4 of the final 5 games of the season. If you can get this guy in round 8, he is well worth having on your roster. Second running back that you can probably get in this range, Miami Dolphins running back Raheem Mostert. Last year, at age 31, Mostert had the best season of his career. You almost never see that with running backs, suddenly at age 31 having the breakout season, but that's exactly what Raheem Mostert did a year ago. He averaged 17.8 points per game in 2023. The guy had over 1,000 yards rushing, scored 21 total touchdowns. Yes, I understand they've got Devon Achane. Yes, I understand they just drafted Jalen Wright. Those guys are young, explosive, and exciting. Mostert not going anywhere. Unless he gets injured, they just signed him to a 2-year extension. He's going to get plenty of opportunity. Again, if you can get him somewhere after round 8 or later, why wouldn't you want to do that? Number 3 guy I want to talk about, Zach Moss, now the running back for the Cincinnati Bengals. Last year with the Indianapolis Colts, Zach Moss averaged 12.1 fantasy points per game, but in the games he started in the absence of Jonathan Taylor, he averaged 17 fantasy points per game. He's now with the Cincinnati Bengals. He's surrounded by very impressive talent at the quarterback and wide receiver positions. The defense won't be able to key on him. Things will be opened up. Everything points to him being the starter for Cincinnati. At the very least, it's his job to lose. The guy, again, averaged 17 a game last year in the absence of Jonathan Taylor. He's got a great opportunity now with the Bengals. And I've been seeing him still on the board in rounds 9, 10, and sometimes 11. Believe me, he's well worth drafting in that range. I don't know why anyone would not want to get him on their roster at that point. Next guy is Los Angeles Chargers running back Gus Edwards. In 2023 with the Baltimore Ravens, Gus Edwards did average 11.1 points per game. Again, I know that's not league-winning status, but that's why we're talking about the second half of your draft. I've been seeing Gus Edwards on the board as late as round 10, sometimes round 11. If you can get this guy in that range, I strongly recommend you do it. He had 13 rushing touchdowns last year for Baltimore. He's with the Chargers now. Yes, they also signed J.K. Dobbins, who I'm one of the guys that's been waiting for him to have a full healthy season, because at Ohio State, J.K. Dobbins was an absolute beast. I'd love to see him unleashed this year, but he is coming off of an Achilles injury that kept him out of almost all of last year. Will he be ready to go week one? Will he be at full strength? It may take another year. Even without another injury, it still may take another year before Dobbins is at full strength. Gus Edwards, at the very least, is going to get a lot of goal line opportunities. He's 6'1", 238. Jim Harbaugh likes to run the ball. If you can get Gus Edwards in the 9th or 10th round, have him on your roster, have him on your bench, he starts scoring touchdowns, you're going to be happy that you drafted this guy. The next guy is Jerome Ford, running back of the Cleveland Browns. Last year, he averaged 12.4 points per game. I know Nick Chubb, still with Cleveland. Some people say he's going to be ready to go at the beginning of the season. I don't know about that. He had 2 off-season surgeries. I'm expecting we won't see Nick Chubb probably until about halfway through the season, and even then, what's it going to look like? He's never had this type of injury to come back from. Jerome Ford likely is going to be their lead back, their workhorse back, at least for the first half of the season. I've been seeing Jerome Ford still on the board in rounds 15 and 16. I've even seen him in multiple leagues that I've joined go undrafted. He's worth a 16th round pick. He's going to probably for sure going to be Cleveland's starting running back for half of the season. And even when Nick Chubb comes back, you may see a system where they're sharing time. He's definitely worth a 15th or 16th round pick. If you don't draft him, you're risking somebody else picking him up off of the waiver wire and then him being used against you. Next guy I want to mention is DeAndre Swift, now with the Chicago Bears. Last year with the Philadelphia Eagles, DeAndre Swift did average 12.5 points per game. He's in a very good offense, surrounded by very good talent. He looks to be the lead back in Chicago. Is he going to average more than 12.5 fantasy points per game? I'm not really sure. But again, if you can get him in the 8th round or later, 12.5 points per game for a guy that could be on your bench that you can insert into the lineup on occasion is still worth having. The biggest thing against him, he did have 1,000 yards rushing last year. Didn't score a lot of touchdowns. So DeAndre Swift, you got to stop getting tackled inside the 3-yard line. But the good news here is Chicago doesn't have a quarterback like Jalen Hurts that they love to do quarterback sneaks from the 1-yard line with. So even if Swift does get tackled, he might get more goal line rushing attempts than he did in Philadelphia. Next up, I've got Zamir White, running back for the Las Vegas Raiders. For the season in 2023, he only averaged about 4 fantasy points per game, but in the final 4 games of the season, where he started for an injured Josh Jacobs, Zamir White put up 15.2 fantasy points per game. He should be the clear-cut starter. Yes, they've got Alexander Madison, who may share some time, but it looks like it's Zamir White's job to lose. I've been seeing Zamir on the board rounds 10, 11, and 12. If he's the workhorse back for Las Vegas, he averaged 15 points a game in his 4 starts last year. He's definitely worth drafting in that range. And again, I don't know why you wouldn't want him on your roster if you can get him in those rounds. Next guy up is Denver Broncos running back Javonte Williams. Now, Javonte Williams last year averaged 11.2 points per game, which again, I know doesn't sound astronomical. He was coming off of an Achilles injury from the previous season. By the end of last year, Javonte looked pretty good. I actually picked him up off of the waiver wire in my league last year and was happy that I did so, because he gave me some pretty good productivity. Now he's 1 year removed fully from that injury. He still looks to be the Broncos' lead running back. He should get plenty of opportunity. He's another one I've been seeing on the board in as late as rounds 11 and 12. He's definitely worth having to at least stash on your bench. Number 9 guy I'm going to mention is a rookie for the Carolina Panthers, Jonathan Brooks out of the University of Texas. Look, I know he's unproven in the NFL. He also sustained an Achilles injury at the end of last season. So it may take him until the midway point of this season to really do much for you in Carolina. But this guy, again, is on the board rounds 8, 9, and 10. Why not go ahead and draft him, have him on your bench? Because when he comes back healthy, let's be honest, it's not going to be that difficult to take the starting running back position away from Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard, two guys that might want to see if Foot Locker needs some guys stocking shoes in the back once Jonathan Brooks is unleashed. The final guy I have on my list is another rookie. This one's a little bit more of a long shot, but I'm going to tell you why I want to talk about him. Rookie running back from Troy, drafted in the 6th round by the Los Angeles Chargers, Kimani Vidal. Now, I did talk about Gus Edwards earlier, so you may wonder why I mentioned another running back from the same team. And it's as simple as this. Kimani Vidal, if J.K. Dobbins has another career, not career, hopefully, another season-ending injury, or he's just not at full speed, you might see Kimani Vidal and Gus Edwards be used in tandem. And if that's the case, they're both going to get opportunities. Vidal is young, he's fast, he's athletic. Your league mates probably aren't going to draft him because a lot of people don't know who he is. I've been seeing him either go undrafted or I've taken him in the 16th round a few times because I think he's worth having on the bench. If you get somebody in the 16th round and they don't do much for you, guess what? You've only risked a 16th round pick. Anybody you pick in the 16th round, if you get much out of them, that's a huge bonus. So in my opinion, Kimani Vidal is worth taking because you can wait till your final round and pick him up. You could even draft him and Gus Edwards. Take Gus Edwards in the 9th or 10th round, Kimani Vidal in the 16th. See if they work in tandem or see if one of them emerges as a clear-cut starter, and then at least you've got them both on your bench as options. So those are my 10 running backs. There are some other ones, but those are the 10 I'm going to name for today that are definitely worth drafting in rounds 8 through 16. I hope you find this helpful. If you like it, please click. You don't have to kick your device unless you want to, but please click the like button. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. It will enable me to continue to bring you this type of content as well as many other types of content, and also alert you when new content is available to upload. Thank you all so much for your time today. I am Jared Johnson, the Jared J. Hope you all have a great week, and I hope to see you again real soon.